Hey there, what do we knowers? It's your old pal Mike here. Need some new stuff? Of course you do. Our capitalistic society would fall apart if you didn't. How about you do us a little solid? Go to wdwkpodcast.com, use the Amazon search bar at the bottom right-hand side of the page, and for no additional charge to you, you will give us a little kickback and simultaneously stick it to the proverbial man. Thank you all in advance for supporting the show, and thank you even more for listening.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you? Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife, Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone, I'm like,
wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. Sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I still need my time.
Man, I'm such an ass.
For sure.
Only the best.
The typical line.
I'm not really doing this for the money, unless there's a lot of money in there, and then I was like, give me my share.
I didn't buy that.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Don't let your wife see this.
Facebook annoys the hell out of me.
Classy.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's ridiculously easy when you put your mind to it.
You'll need it when you see the student loans.
I can see that.
Let me say a couple things.
News, yeah, news.
Kind of commented on that to both of you before.
Guys I play with.
Guys who play with hot water firm days.
Hot just on my crotch.
Good times. Wow.
Vetoed.
By the way, are we recording?
We legally have to put certain things in Spanish.
Right.
In certain areas. Is there a legal requirement that it has to be written in English?
I think
I have no idea, actually.
Area.
Right.
Because the whole idea is America melting pot idea, but
Do you guys put calorie counts on your menu in Japan?
actually most restaurants, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of restaurants have actually calorie counts on the food items, so you know how much things.
I mean, at like fast food restaurants and things like
I'm
that?
talking about regular restaurants, yeah.
Well,
like
it's a
even
legal
restaurant-
requirement in certain areas in the U.S. now, including D.C. is one of them that has, like, you would legally have to show calories next to everything on a menu board.
Yeah. I think for fast food restaurants or main chain restaurants, they do. And I think that in many private ones, they even have it. Because Japanese people tend to be more weight conscious than most Americans.
Now, the question comes, Mike, did they do that in Michigan yet? I don't think so.
No, not in most places. I think like some of the fast food places are kind of starting to do it, like for a convenience type thing. Yeah, McDonald's.
I think
Probably
most
just
Taco Bell
corporate-wise,
too.
so because they're doing it everywhere else anyway. Like,
Yeah, right. I think that's what's going on. I think there's a little bit of that. Every other, other stores have to do it, so we might as well start making the switch everywhere.
so
Do you believe that they're accurate, though, when they put it out? I think there's only
Probably not.
but mostly not accurate.
I wouldn't think.
I find it funny that you have to put the calorie count on food items, but not necessarily the price on a menu when you go to certain restaurants. You ever been to that restaurant where you look at the menu and you're like, I have no idea how much this costs because it doesn't tell me anything about the price on here?
I don't go to places that fancy.
Not even fancy places. And the problem is when I walk into one of those, I'm like, I have no idea how much my bill is going to be because I have no idea how much this is supposed to cost. Like, I think that should be a legal requirement before calories. You have to put the price of how much something's going to cost if you're going to sell it to somebody.
I've never had that issue.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever had that.
Are you kidding me? Especially with drinks. Usually it's like the food menu will probably show you for the most part a price.
If you just get it
The
rip it off,
drink menu will sit there and be like blank on the price column. And you'll be like,
Okay, I know what you're talking about with drinks. Like, I've been to plenty of places where I've been to plenty of places that didn't even have a drink menu. So, I mean, pretty much you can order whatever you want, especially when you're talking alcoholic beverages and stuff. They know how to make it, but it's not on a menu anywhere. You have no idea how much it costs unless you ask.
yeah, isn't that annoying? not knowing how much you're about to pay because these are delicious. I'll take one more.
Wait.
Like,
Are you
I have
telling
no
me
idea how much
that
that
you go to
costs.
places, that they don't have the price on the menu. So if you buy, let's say, a Coke, and to you, a Coke might be like $1 to $2 reasonable price, and they charge you $500, that you would not be able to argue it?
Would you not be able to
Coke?
argue it? I don't know, but
I don't really know.
I
But
mean, let's say they charge you $5 for that Coke. That seems like a pretty...
I've had on numerous occasions gone to bars where I ordered something on that menu that I was like, it's a 16-ounce glass of the IPA or whatnot. I'm like,
Well, then
okay,
you
this
probably
is probably going to be
order it.
like $6 or something like that, and I get my bill and it's 12. You can't really
Well,
argue
then-
that.
every sporting event I've ever been to in my life sells me a 20-ounce beer for $7 or something like
No,
that.
but at least you know
That's
ahead of
cheap for
time.
DC, by the way, but
I mean, like, no, there's a difference between knowing that you're getting ripped off.
right, and that's the
getting
problem. When I
price.
go to those places that don't have the price in the menu, I get really weary of what it's going to be. And
Well, then don't order it.
I mean, on numerous occasions, I've ordered it, asking the person like, "Oh, how much does something like this cost?" And you'll get a look like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me go check with the server." And they never really come back with the price of something because that's a gimmick in a way that people make a lot of money, especially in a place that sells good food. People are going to be there with a big party, and they're just going to start ordering stuff.
So one of the things that, because you're talking about things that they should be mandatory for food, is that the Supreme Court justices I think they just determined that schools are not required to follow the federal guideline for food for schools cafeterias. So like I just read an article talking about how Obama's wife, what's her name?
Michelle.
Michelle Obama, the food for, like fitness food or whatever.
It's
thing that
Michelle
she-
Barack, by the way. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
A little drunk. Yeah, Michelle Barack. No, Michelle Obama.
It's Barack
Thank you.
Michelle. That's what it is.
Anyway, they determined that schools don't have to follow the federal guidelines for food costs or food health standards, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. But as far as I can tell, school cafeterias do not have to follow the government mandated health standards as long as they don't take federal funding for that. So school lunches now can feed their students anything they want without federal funding, as long as they don't have federal funding.
I
And
don't know. I didn't read anything about it.
so yeah, so this is then you get the whole Hobby Lobby thing that's taking most of the news. But basically, it's saying that as long as they don't have federal funding, they can give students anything they want in school cafeterias.
So,
if they want to
so basically, you're talking non-public schools.
No, I'm talking about public schools.
What public schools don't take federal funding?
No, federal funding for school lunch programs. That's a portion of the money they get for the school.
What school
So
would
let's
ever
say-
make a school where they didn't take federal money for their lunches, though?
Because this is the argument that because of federal funding, they get a certain amount of money given to the school for school lunches. But because students haven't been eating or taking the school lunches, that they're losing money for the school. If schools choose to give food that students are willing to pay for a profit, then not taking federal funding can actually give the school a net profit than a loss.
So you're saying that they're going to start putting in like McDonald's or Chipotle or something like that in their cafeteria?
That some schools already have.
Oh, I see.
Or whatever in their schools. Because I remember one of the things that I read an article about is Pizza Hut having a light version of their pizza that meets the federal standards, but they don't serve it in their own restaurant for whatever reason. But basically, students get paid to have Pizza Hut pizza. But now, that because of this new ruling, basically, as long as they
can get a full deep dish and not worry about it. It's
well, basically, without federal funding, they could allow the students to buy basically whatever food they want and make a huge profit off of that. So they don't have to worry about the students' health at all.
I have a feeling, man, I don't know. It's such a slippery slope.
Isn't it? It's messed up.
It is messed up, but man, I feel like they'll reverse that somehow. I don't think the government's going to let that go through.
Oh,
I would be surprised I would be surprised that it got through.
Yeah, it went to the Supreme Court, so it would take Congress and the House, basically the House and the Senate, and the President to override the federal court.
I hadn't heard about this either, but I'm really shocked at hearing about something like that, and it would be it'd be interesting to see that school lunches would be able to be I don't know, not regulated like that, because I was actually thinking that they would go the other direction and start regulating any place of business, not in the business of like food, that you have to have a healthy option at the like workplace, as opposed to like I worked for the CIA for a little while. Like a Burger King was one of the main staples in the cafeteria area. It was a Burger King in there, and I was just kind of like, this is weird. Like this is
well, okay. So this is the argument is that because of Michelle Obama's ruling, although it's actually not her. She's sort of more like the figurehead for it. For fitness in school lunch programs and outside the school lunch program is the reason why this is caused. So basically, schools are required to have, let's say, milk, vegetables, fruit, less fatty food. It's causing students not to want to buy school lunches, and therefore costing school lots of money. So
are they really making money off of the school lunches, though? I remember paying like 90 cents for my school lunch.
Well, no, that's the point. That they're losing money. Schools are losing money.
I don't see how they could have been making money off of my 90 cents for what they gave me. I'm sure it was worth more than 90 cents.
Right, because they got federal funding for the school. Basically, tax dollars go into school lunch programs to help supplement the cost of school lunches, to make it more affordable for the students to buy lunches, but they were regulated by what kind of health criteria that were being served.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is basically America's now saying fuck health of our children for profit for the school.
Are you sure this isn't a Japan thing?
No, I'm pretty sure it's pretty.
I feel like
it's like the same thing with America, where it's like, let's sell Doritos in vending machines in America, in our school cafeteria.
Didn't all that stuff get taken away though? Like vending machines in high schools, like
I'm pretty sure.
Are you sure? There was a huge argument about that a few years back.
I mean, I don't think they should. Like, basically, if you allow students to have whatever shit they want, anyways, why regulate their lunches?
But that was the big problem with those vending machines, is like a lot of parents got outraged over them. Wasn't there like big like court cases and like? No.
There might have been, but it doesn't. I don't think there was anything that passed that took away vending machines. Most of the reason why is those vending machines. It doesn't even matter if they're making profit at these schools. These schools that sell Coca-Cola or whatever, they're trying to hook children basically to their products. So when they're adults, they buy them.
I know what they're trying to do, which is why I thought that there was a big thing against them shortly after we get out of high school.
I'm sure
early
they were.
2000, I could have sworn there was.
No, I think you're right. I seem to remember that too, but I don't remember how it all played out.
I don't either.
Well,
having not been in high school since then, I have no idea.
Right, exactly.
Mike, you can ask your kids, like, can they buy stuff from vending machines? I'm pretty sure they'll say yes.
I'm almost positive. I shouldn't even say that.
In Japan, they don't.
I will. I'll check, and we'll update this next show.
I would be very curious because they might have vending machines that sell like pencils and erasers and things like that, but not like Doritos and Coke.
Yeah, I whenever I was a kid and I needed a notebook, I went to the vending machine.
When I was in high school, my school actually got paid a significant amount of money to replace what they had. Which was like a mix of like random companies' vending machines, because back when like the vending machine industry was big, as in like people driving around and like, I restock your vending machine because I'm your vending machine guy, which used to be a thing. It's like the milkman. I'm the vending machine man.
It's still a thing, depending on where you're at.
Is it really? I thought it was more like, I thought it was all company based at this point in time, not like.
Right, probably not schools so much. But, I mean, like where I work, there's vending machines, and we have a woman who does it, same woman all the time.
Oh, interesting. But yeah, I remember my school, we had a bunch of those at one point, and all of a sudden, the next day, they were all like Coke machines. And it turns out that the school got like a $20,000 grant from Coca-Cola for getting rid of all of everything else and just having Coca-Cola machines in there. But this is before the big war on like childhood obesity and all that stuff. Like this is in like the mid-90s.
Saying about Obama's wife. It's like Michelle Obama's trying to get rid of childhood obesity, but
by
it's a war on choice.
Deregulating like school lunches.
It's a war on choice. And I even posted on someone's thing because they were talking about this whole issue, and I was like, we're fucking America. We can make our child obese if we want to. We have the choice of either, being diabetic or having cardiac arrest. We're American.
Cardiac arrest. It's a great disease.
That's when you start breaking out the shins.
Shins for cardiac arrest.
I mean, like, basically, that's the whole point, is that do we, as a capitalist society, allow anything to happen? And, I don't know, that's your argument, Mike, right? That businesses can choose to do basically fucking whatever, and therefore, the free market will decide if it's a viable option.
When you're talking about a governmentally funded institution, like a school, I don't know. You're talking about your kids, keeping your kids.
Well, but I mean, we're talking about everyone. Like, I don't think. All right, here's one of the things that I have issue with. Kids are innocent, pure beings, whatever bullshit you want to say. But I don't value their lives that much more than adults. If you're a 21-year-old person that dies, am I supposed to cry less because you're older than if you're an 8-year-old child?
I think the 8-year-old doesn't know enough to protect themselves.
Yeah, societal standard would say, yes, you probably should cry less.
Yeah, standard-wise, but I mean, I don't know, isn't there like a whole life is life?
I mean, I guess I understand completely what you're saying, Mark, like that being the case, but I think the argument with the school lunches is, as Mike alluded to, you know less and you can't protect yourself as much as a child. You're still in that learning process as an 8-year-old, and if you learn that eating all this bad stuff is just standard and normal and kind of what you should be doing, you're going to do it for the rest of your life. Whereas if you're a 21-year-old, you're not going to change your ways as easily as an 8-year-old. If you start serving an 8-year-old food that's good for you and they grow up that way, as opposed to that 8-year-old who got that crap food up until when they're 21 and you told the 21-year-old, oh, by the way, they just deregulated the stuff you used to eat when you were in school. You should start eating different things. They'd be like, why? That's what I've eaten all my life. Like, this is...
Well, that's exactly sort of my point, is that if you were to say that as an adult, you get to choose and make more rational decisions. But if, as a child, all those decisions are made for you, then how
So
as
are
being an
we
adult?
brainwashing our children into eating healthy food? Is that what it is? Is that
No,
brainwashing?
no. I'm saying that as an adult, if all our choices are made as children, then you're not making any choices as an adult. If you're not being any more it basically, if being a child, this is what you do because you're a child, and then you do that all the way into adulthood.
I
then you
understand your
Oh.
argument, which makes it very hard to counter. Like, I get where you're going with it, and it's...
No, well, it's smart. I mean, really,
smart.
it's teaching your kids to be smart, for crying out loud. That's
Yeah.
your
Right.
whole job as a parent.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, though, Mike, the only parent here, if your kids were taught as young kids to eat healthy and then grew up
Good.
and were like, I've been told eating healthy is bad. I need to start eating bad. Like, and now you've brainwashed me into eating healthy all these years. I mean, it's kind of like they learn one thing as a kid, and when they grow up, do they have as much ability to change it? Like, I'm trying to show the tables being turned. Like, what if it turns out healthy food is actually really bad for you, and bad food is where
Well,
it should be?
well,
Like,
questioning like eggs, like as a child, were eggs healthy or bad for you? Because
eggs were
studies
good
have shown,
as long as they were cooked. But the thing is, back then, well, they are now. But back then, like,
Are
raw
they?
eggs would be just fine.
if you ask most Americans, are eggs good for you? They probably wouldn't know what the fuck to answer. Because eggs have been shown to be very good and very bad
Well,
and very good and very bad again.
eggs have all the proteins in them. It's the problem is the
protein.
yolk. The yolk is what has a lot of. Is it cholesterol? Is it fat? I don't even know what it has, but it's bad. It's
But it
bad in
has-
some way, shape,
it
or
has
form.
cholesterol, but also they have been shown that studies have shown that it's a good kind of cholesterol.
Good
So it's
cholesterol.
okay,
Yeah.
but not to have too many of that good cholesterol because that could be bad. But then in the it's just so much.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, and what Jeff was talking about is rebellion when they hit an older age. Well, that's always something you're going to look at if you hit any topic too hard. Like, I mean, kind of the stereotype is like Catholic school rebellion, But yeah, sure, you can overteach your kids stuff for sure. And if we know people who
My
growing up
point is-
were kind of over the top. Their parents were over the top with things, and they swung back the other direction.
My point is, we tend to say that children tend to be more innocent in the way they view life. But if we view that habits that children have go into adulthood, then how is that any more innocent? Like, if you're as an adult, you basically have your views and beliefs based as a child, then you're just as innocent as an adult as you are as a child. And while granted that you tend to learn how to make more rational decisions as an adult, it's not necessarily the case for everything that you do as an adult.
Right, and this goes back to being a good parent. Is if you teach your kid why they should be doing something rather than just do it because I say so. That's kind of one of the challenges of raising a kid, is not teaching them to be a robot. It's teaching them how to make smart decisions based on the available information.
That sounded very robotic to me, Mark. I'm gonna say that again.
I'm just saying that, is that really true how we do? Is that something that we really truly do with our children? Because, I mean, if I were to say, if we were to say that during elementary school to maybe even junior high to high school even, would you say that many of the practices that schools teach tend to be very liberal or Republican in thought? Like, we tend to teach save the environment, save the animals,
Plant a tree.
but also that we should use science and reason and I'm not saying that necessarily.
Those all seem very like liberal point of views. Go
No, no.
on.
But like evolution and such like that, that's very maybe non-conservative in thought. So therefore, as an adult, I don't.
You could go to Texas if you want a different like opinion on that
Or
stuff.
send your kids to private schools.
Well, what I'm saying is that as children, we tend to indoctrinate them in a certain way of thought that may be leaning more toward a liberal thought, but we're not necessarily teaching them many different views and then to rationalize for their own thought, because as children, they have a very hard time logically rationally.
You're saying that the children of Democrats are going to be Democrats, the children of Republicans are going to be Republicans, based on just upbringing and hearing the same type of thing over and
Not
over and
always,
over again.
but
No, of
general.
course, not always, but in general. And I
mean,
agree. I agree with that. I think that's very. I think that's very true. People take a lot of what their parents are and become that exact same thing, whether they should or not, just because that's their upbringing. Like,
right. Well, I mean,
that.
when it comes to, let's say, religion, how many atheist children come up and say, like, I want to be a Mormon now? Not very frequently. But if you're living in a Catholic religion, I would say a good 75 to 80%, if not more, are going to end up being sort of like that Catholic bringing. And I'm not necessarily.
What about Kim Jong Un? Oh wait,
Well, yeah.
that proves your point. Anyways, how about?
I'm just saying that even with not without the religious connotations about it, if the way you eat as a child is pretty much how you're going to eat as an adult. I'll give Matt an example. Like, he grew up eating mac and cheese and hot dogs, and as an adult, he pretty much eats mac and cheese and hot dogs.
I still love mac and cheese and hot dogs, and I didn't eat them that much as a child. I will say that, but
I mean,
I started eating them because they were cheap, and I was
Right.
broke.
Right, exactly.
And those fit the bill, along with the ramen noodles.
Ramen noodles, there you go.
But I mean, I read this book by Bill Bryson, right? And he's American that lived in Britain, that visited America once in a while. Anyways, his thing is, growing up, he was limited on the food variety that he was able to eat. Like, in his little podunk town, they didn't have that many Italian food, not that many Indian food. But as a child, if you don't get exposed to that much foreign ethnic food, as an adult, you're less likely, not always, but less likely to enjoy ethnic food.
I agree. I hate
Sure.
Indian food. And it took me a long time to even try it because it was scary to me, because it was some random thing that I'd never had before as a child. And
Right.
I found out I dislike Indian food pretty significantly. However, I love Thai food, which I also never had as a child. And I finally branched out and tried Thai food and found out I love Thai food.
But I mean, it could be because it has certain things that are familiar to you, like noodles, peanuts, certain peppers.
Well, but I think what you're saying is like all encompassing. It's not just with food habits, it's
Right.
with everything.
And
I mean,
it's-
kids pick up the traits of their parents.
As
So-
a child, basically what you learn to be true, you basically take in as to be an adult. So it's not that children are that different from adults. So to value the innocence of a child, which I'm not saying they're not impressionable, I'm not saying that adults are any less impressionable. So I don't see where having lesser life experience makes a very big difference in how we value that person's life. And I guess when I was young, like being a 30, 40-year-old person that died of a heart attack, my mother thought that was horrific. Like, oh, it's so sad. He died so young. And as being like a 12-year-old, I was like, what do you mean? He lived a full fucking life. Like he was a good, maybe grandfather by then person, right? But as I view it now, it's like
Mark's math skills weren't very good back when he was young. But...
Well, you could be a grandfather at 50.
Yes, which is not the 30 or 40-year-old you just portrayed, but go on.
40-year-old, you could be a grandfather also.
Could be. It does happen.
30 could happen also. That would be a pretty weird situation.
36 to 40 could definitely happen. 2 18-year-olds having kids. I mean, that's feasible. You could be younger than that, and yeah, I agree. But anyways, go on.
But as we are older, a person dying at 40 or 50 is still pretty young to die.
Yeah. Person dying at like late 60s is a young person in my ICU. If somebody's in their late 60s, we're like, man, it's a young guy who's in here right now, really sick.
So as a person who dies at the age of 12 and the person who dies at the age of 32, why would we value a person who dies at 12? Like, oh, that's more of a tragedy. Because there's just a couple more years.
It's a child who is under the control and care of adults, not themselves. Well, they don't take care of themselves. A 32-year-old takes care of himself. If I died tomorrow, I would hope you would value my life less than a 12-year-old who was taking care of themselves.
But I don't think that's true at all. I mean, especially for personality-wise. Let's say, for example, Mike Jernigan died, right? That would be a pretty big tragedy. But a 12-year-old that you never knew, are you going to say that 12-year-old...
Nobody who you didn't know was a bigger tragedy than somebody you did, no matter how old they are. That's just like... that's a given.
That Mike got into an accident with one of his children. Are you going to say... of course, you might not. Well, Mike got in an accident with one of his children. I think both would be a pretty big tragedy, and I would equate both as a terrible loss. I wouldn't say that one was worse than the other.
You know, I think just it's kind of human nature to sort of evaluate situations. Right. You know, this theoretical 30-year-old who we're talking about. I mean,
no, I'm talking about you.
Okay. Well, before we were talking about a theoretical person.
Okay, yeah.
But like if you're talking about me, you know, I have 3 kids and a wife that I'm providing for. So, you know, there's some stock that gets added onto that side of the scale for me because of that. You know what I mean? Like, whereas if it's a 32-year-old with nothing going on, he's just sort of hacking around, you know. That's a whole nother thing. And maybe it's not right that we do that, I guess, but I think we do.
And that's one of the things that I'm doing as I'm acquiring more knowledge and getting older, is that I'm trying to challenge what I think is right. I don't think that we should value life at different ages as more important.
Well, different ages, but I think what Mike's trying to say is, like, if I died tomorrow versus if he died tomorrow, I think that my life is less important than Mike's because I am not providing for 3 children and a wife right now. Like, I'm providing for myself. And
I think that's sort of strange, though, to think that.
I don't, because I hope to be providing for a family one day, and I hope that I'm a difference. Well, I actually don't hope that I am, but I would assume that I would be a difference that they need. That if I were to be out of my future in theory family, like that if I were to be out of the picture, that they would probably struggle a little bit more than if I was around to be able to help them. And like Mike is saying, like his kids, they count on him for things, and if he's gone and can't provide that anymore, then that's something that's missing. Whereas for me, if I died, nobody's missing anything because I'm gone. They're sad, hopefully.
I disagree.
Hopefully.
I disagree. And that's the thing is, once you sort of think about how life is affected depending on how close you are to the person. I'm not going to think that your parents are going to be thinking, oh, thank God that it was Jeff and not Mike. He had kids.
They might not be
Jeff.
thinking it's Jeff and not Mike. They might be thinking it's Jeff and not his sister, who does have 3 children, though. I almost guarantee that thought process would jump into their head. Thank God it was him and not the person who's providing for her 3 children.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Oh, God, if they didn't say that, I would be mad at them. Like, that would be kind of a requirement for them to say in that case.
I think that's not right.
It's morbid? I know it's morbid. I have a very morbid sense of reality. I understand.
I have no problem with the morbidity of it. I think that to say that just because someone has children, that it's more of a tragedy.
I'm saying it's more of a tragedy because those children need to be taken care of by somebody, and right now it's not by me. So therefore, if I'm to die, it doesn't affect them.
It affects more people more deeply.
But that's okay. Let's say that President Obama got shot. All right, and
is he providing for the nation? No, somebody else.
No, but would that touch more lives than, let's say, that?
Yes, well, you know what? Yes, it would, and that's sad.
Then
I will be the first to admit that it should not. It would not affect me.
Would you say that one life is more important than others?
I don't think something like that is, but yes, most people in the American population would be more affected by that.
And I think that's where my issue is. I don't think that one life is more equivalent than another.
But I think a lot of rational thinking people kind of agree with us on that point.
Well, I'm not saying that more. Just because more people agree with something doesn't make it right.
That's also true.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife, Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone, I'm like,
wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. Sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I still need my time.
Man, I'm such an ass.
For sure.
Only the best.
The typical line.
I'm not really doing this for the money. Unless there's a lot of money in there, and then I was like, give me my share.
I didn't buy that.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
Don't let your wife see this.
Facebook annoys the hell out of me.
Classy.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's ridiculously easy when you put your mind to it.
You'll need it when you see the student loans.
I can see that.
Let me say a couple things.
News, yeah, news.
Kind of commented on that to both of you before.
Guys I play with.
Guys you play with. Hot water firm days.
Hot just on my crotch.
Good times. Wow.
Vetoed.
By the way, are we recording?